The Fed has finally capitulated and made their first rate cut. Gold is stalling just as Bitcoin is beginning to stir. And with Bitcoin's strongest seasonal window flashing green, all of this points to a massive move coming. Plus, Eric Trump calls Bitcoin the greatest asset of our time live on CNBC. And this tech engineer says the battle for money is splitting east versus west. Gold versus Bitcoin, capital controls versus freedom. Stick around because we may be entering the most decisive few months that will define the future of money itself. Welcome to No Second Best, the show where conviction meets reality and reality points straight to Bitcoin. I'm your host, Hurley. Now let's get into it. Yesterday, the Fed cut rates by 25 basis points, the first of what markets expect to be 3 cuts this year. There's already an over 85% chance of another 25 basis point cut in October. But here's the signal behind the noise. The Fed just admitted it's comfortable with 3% inflation, raising the bar from that arbitrary 2% they've clung to for decades. And this is where we need to zoom out a bit. CPI is not real inflation. CPI was never designed to tell you the truth. It's a basket rigged with substitutions and hedonic adjustments. Steak getting too expensive? They swap in ground beef. TVs getting cheaper? That's supposed to offset your rent doubling. Even the Fed admits CPI doesn't reflect asset inflation. And where does your wealth really sit? Homes, equities, savings. Those are the assets ballooning while wages stagnate. CPI hides the theft of your future. Just look at housing. Median home prices have surged far faster than CPI. Same with college tuition. Same with healthcare. CPI says 3% inflation, but in reality, it's double-digit compounding theft on the essentials of life. The real game? CPI protects the treasury, not you. Understate inflation, overstate growth, and you can keep borrowing trillions without panic. This isn't economics, it's accounting propaganda. And that's why rate cuts don't mean inflation is defeated. They mean debt is unserviceable at higher rates. The Fed cuts not because they've won, but because they're trapped. Liquidity flows, debt expands, and the cycle repeats. Bitcoin is hovering around $117,000. That's just 5.5% off the all-time high of $124K. Rate cuts have just begun. And Bitcoin is already knocking on the door of price discovery. What do you think happens next? Okay, let's pivot to gold. Year to date, gold has outperformed Bitcoin. But that's normal in the early innings. We saw the same thing last year. Gold tends to rip for months, stalls out, and then Bitcoin wakes up and crushes it. And right on cue, gold is stalling after hitting new all-time highs earlier this week, while Bitcoin is stirring to life. Are we about to see that playbook repeat? You know what I think. And history suggests the timing is perfect. October, November, December, by far Bitcoin's strongest months. Seasonality is flashing green, gold is stalling, and rate cuts are just starting. The setup could not be stronger for an explosive end-of-year run. And James Lavish agrees.
I assume off the back of this meeting, you think that's insanely bullish for Bitcoin if they start cutting rates again. What do you think like the rest of this year will look like for Bitcoin?
Look, I've thought that we could hit 150, 180 sometime this fall for a long time. I'm kind of surprised how hard we bounced off that 120, 125 level a few times here. And so, does that give me pause? No. Do I think that the 4-year cycle is over and bring it all the way back full circle to your question about Bitcoin in the beginning? I mean, I think it's changing. And one of the things that we didn't talk about is because of just the sheer amount of institutional capital that's coming into the space. And what happens is when you get institutions that decide that they need an allocation to this thing, they start rebalancing their portfolios around it. And so if they want a 1 or 2 or 3% position in Bitcoin, if Bitcoin goes down, they buy some more. If it goes way up, they sell some because they want to keep it at that 3% position. And that does dampen volatility. And that's going to continue to happen more and more and more as Bitcoin is continued to be adopted by institutions. And so, but I still think that Bitcoin, it can be extremely volatile to the upside too. And so people sometimes forget, all they see is those 50, 60, 70, 80% drawdowns, like, oh my God, this thing is volatile to the downside. Remember, it rips higher too. And I don't know if it's true this year yet, but over the last number of years, or since the beginning, you had like almost 90% of your returns in Bitcoin could be captured in just 10 trading days a year. It really has violent moves higher. So that's an interesting thing to remember too. So I still think that we can get 130. If we don't hit 130, I will be shocked. But I still think we can hit 150, 180 by the year end. It wouldn't surprise me in the least.
That seems relatively that doesn't seem too outlandish. Like, I could totally believe that happens as well. It's funny, that stat on like you can capture all the gains in sort of 10 trading days a year. I do wonder how this cycle is changing that, because this has just been a grind. Like, it hasn't been like previous cycles.
We haven't had that blow off top, like you said. We just haven't had it.
It's almost not been a bull market yet. I'm ready, James.
Bitcoin isn't just volatile to the downside. The real story is how violently it rips higher. Remember, nearly all of Bitcoin's gains can come in just 10 trading days a year. With rate cuts just starting, liquidity flowing, and gold slowing, those 10 days could be right in front of us. And that brings us to Eric Trump. On Monday, the president's son rang the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange for his new Bitcoin mining company, American Bitcoin. And he had this to say live on CNBC.
Bitcoin has become the modern day gold. People all over the world are pouring into it. Companies from Fortune 500s, a company like ours, to sovereign wealth funds, to the richest families on earth, are all hoarding Bitcoin. It's become such an incredible asset. It's immediately liquid. It's probably the greatest hedge to real estate, that there is, right? Because again, you have massive liquidity. It's all around the world. It's protected by kind of the greatest ecosystem of energy mining companies in the world that safeguard it. Bitcoin has become, I think, the truly greatest asset of our time.
What better signal could you ask for? The president's own son, live on CNBC, calling Bitcoin the greatest asset of our time. That's not just politics. That's mainstream adoption. The Trump family is planting a flag. Bitcoin is modern gold, liquid, global, and unstoppable. And this goes far beyond the Trump family or market traders. This is about the new global monetary order unfolding in real time. East versus West, gold versus Bitcoin. Popular YouTuber Tech Lead, who's an ex-Google and Meta engineer turned massive Bitcoin bull, laid it out as clear as day.
Yeah, so gold is the parallel play that China's working on. And what we have is a situation of the East versus West. The East believes in gold. The West is the free world believing in Bitcoin. Which side is going to win? I think it's probably going to be the West. You see, the East is on knowledge economy, basically, and the West is embracing attention economy. You can say like, well, sure, maybe China has all of these tech and engineer workers and they're going to build out these robots perhaps, but ultimately there's high capital controls out there, and in the West, the whole Western world is going to be embracing Bitcoin. That is going to be the currency of the free world without all of those capital controls. So I think the market cap for Bitcoin is probably going to exceed gold. Not to mention, you've got all of the attention riding with Bitcoin, and you need to understand that attention economy.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the big picture. The East doubles down on gold and capital controls. The West embraces freedom and Bitcoin. So which side wins? I agree with Tech Lead. Bitcoin wins, because Bitcoin is the currency of the free world. And here's the math. Gold's market cap today is just over $24 trillion. If Bitcoin just matches that, that's roughly $1.2 million per Bitcoin. But it won't stop there. Bitcoin is set to capture the largest addressable market of any asset in the world, money itself. If it goes to 1 million, it's going to 10 million. If it goes to 10 million, it's going to 100 million. Why? Because there's no second best in the game of money. And if you want help navigating this massive transition, building a serious long-term Bitcoin position with the right strategy, support, and security, talk to a member of the Swan Private team today. Our team works with high net worth families, individuals, and businesses to design long-term accumulation and custody plans. No noise, just Bitcoin. Reach out at swan.com/no-second-best to start your journey towards generational wealth today. And if you want to meet the thinkers, builders, and policymakers shaping this future, come join us at BTC in DC. It's less than 2 weeks away, September 30th and October 1st, at the historic Kennedy Center in Washington. This is so much more than just a conference. It's where Wall Street, Washington, and Bitcoin collide. You can find all the details at btcindc.com, and use promo code SWAN for 10% off your tickets. And finally, a quick shout out to Mara, the world's largest publicly traded Bitcoin miner, for supporting this show and for helping make Bitcoin the world's most decentralized and secure monetary network. So the setup is clear. Bitcoin is primed for an explosive end-of-year run. And these next few months could very well define the future of money itself. But I'd love to hear what you think. Is Bitcoin getting ready to massively outperform gold to end the year? And who wins in the battle for money? Gold in the East or Bitcoin in the West? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, share it with friends who risk missing the rocket ship, and subscribe to the Swan Bitcoin channel for more signal every single day. Thanks for watching, and remember, there is no second best money.